say good morning, Virgin Islands, and happy Paradise Tuesday to all. And this beautiful Tuesday in Santa Cruz is August 8th. August 18, 2026. And as you know, there's a general election coming up on November 3rd. So we have in the studio a gubernatorial team that I would like for you to hear their platform and how are they going to move us forward in the Virgin Islands of the United States. So without further ado, let me introduce the team, let them tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we will have an interview. We have in the studio, we have Gustav James and Randall Bennett. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. Good morning to the listening audience.
You could go ahead and tell us something about yourself.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Gustav James. I'm here with my running mate, Randolph Bennett. I am from St. Croix. I am born and raised in Frederickstead, St. Croix. And most of you listening, I'm sure, know me at least on some level. I was raised in St. Croix, and I went away from here to university, Michigan State University, became an engineer. And as I traveled the world, I saw a wonderful place that we can emulate in a number of ways. And so by coming back to St. Croix, I'm hoping that we can make St. Croix the paradise that it should be for all of us.
Good morning, Virgin Islanders. This is Randolph Bennett. I am the candidate from St. Thomas, and I think it's very important for people to understand that our team, bring the competence, the capabilities, and the knowledge to solve many of the issues that we are faced with here in our community. I worked in the Executive Office of the President of the United States. I was a director with the U.S. Department of State. I came back and was the commissioner for the Department of Property and Procurement, while Mr. James was the commissioner for the Department of Public Works. That's a lot of what we can do is because we have the knowledge and work to make things happen in our community. You can't elect individuals that have been doing the same thing over and over and expect some different results. As candidates and as professionals, we are also business owners. So we respect the importance of small business in our community and the things that they can produce to help our community grow. We're firmly believers that it's infrastructure that is required to transform our community and make our community grow, putting people to work, reducing crime, ensuring health care is addressed, ensure mental health issues are addressed, and help our community to grow. I've seen it in the places I've lived. I've had the opportunity to have lived around the world. I've lived in Germany, for example, for 9 years. I lived in Saudi Arabia for 2 years. I lived in Qatar. I've had the opportunity to live around the world because I'm also a former military officer. So that level of integrity and competence we're bringing to the table. Vote, vote, vote for the James Bennett team come November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. And about a year ago, July 3rd, I attended a bonfire. And at that point, you, Gustav James, had announced that you will be running for governor. And you say you will be running as a Democrat. I would like to know what made you change your mind and how. I know the two of you worked before under the administration, but how did you go about selecting your running mate and why you changed from running as a Democrat to independent?
Well, as far as the running mate is concerned, I've known Randolph Bennett since we served together in the MAP administration, and we were both running for governor. It was a situation where he decided he was going to run for governor, I decided I was
That's
going to
right.
run for
I
governor.
did hear that.
So we were both running for governor, and we were both running for governor for the same reasons. You know, the reasons being that we did not see any positive outcome by selecting any of the other people that we knew would be running for governor. We could forecast who was going to be in this gubernatorial race, and all we saw was more of the same.
Uh-huh.
And we know that the people of the Virgin Islands need something better, need something different. We need to actually improve these Virgin Islands. So we got together, and he was running for governor. I'm running for governor. I said, Randolph, I think I should take the governor's position. I'm a little bit older than you are. so, so let's agree. And he right away said, agreed. You know, and speaking about the other aspect, why I'm not running as a Democrat, Randolph is once again part of the reason for that, because he did not want to run as a Democrat. He had a lot of experience with the Democratic Party, and he did not want to be a Democratic candidate for governor. And among the vast majority of my supporters, pressured me, really said, don't run as a Democrat. They feel like the Democratic Party is a big part of the problem, and so they wanted us to separate from the Democratic Party, and so we did.
Well, you recall I asked you, I said, why are you running as a Democrat?
Exactly.
And the reason why I asked that question is there appears to be this movement, anti-democrat movement, especially coming from the West. And I don't necessarily agree with it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I find, as a registered voter, it's simply a label. You can change. You could change your party affiliation.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change who you are.
So may I add to that? I was a Democratic Party district chair for St. Thomas. I ran in an election, and what I learned after becoming in the belly of the whale, so to speak, I was a Democrat. I worked for President Obama. I worked in the Obama administration. I worked in the executive office of the President of the United States. I campaigned for the president. So I was a Democrat on a national level stage. When I came home, like you said, many people see the Democrats, it's a label. But the party has transitioned to become something as if it's a good old boys club. There's only a handful of people really saying that they're part of the party, running the party, right? Everybody else are registered Democrats. It's two distinctly different things.
That's right.
The party itself does not exist here in the Virgin Islands. It does not exist. And if anybody wants to challenge me, they can go to the Lieutenant Governor's office, pull the registry for the Democratic Party, and see if any of these people that's running around saying that they're part of the Democratic Party name is on that list. They're not. The people who are on that list was Joseph Alexander, who had the movie theater here in Christiansted. They were the former members of the party. And a few other people, I don't remember all the names right now, but Joseph Alexander always stands out because my father's first name was Joseph. So, but those are the people, and they're all dead. It's as if I'm running around calling myself McDonald's. And this is what I use this metaphor all the time. I'm running around calling, and I have no affiliation with McDonald's. I don't even own a franchise with McDonald's. That's the misrepresentation of those people who call themselves the Democratic Party leaders that has been done to the Virgin Islands. And it's like everybody knows it, but it's like somebody that's a thief in public view and nobody does anything about it, because there's so many people who have believed in this party, have supported this party, and they're being bamboozled. I cannot, with my level of understanding, my feelings of integrity, could not have run under that umbrella when I know they have not, and they're not properly registered. Because to me, if you're a lawmaker, you can't be a lawbreaker. And if you're starting out bad from the top and you're squeezing your candidates, now I had a member of the Democratic Party who was running for office. We had a couple of events over the past few days. The person is a friend of mine, and I invited them out, and they called me and they told me, Mr. Bennett, I can't come to the event because I got calls. I'd say if I go to any of your events, I'm going to be, basically blackballed. They use the term as a Democrat for democracy, something that I fought for as a military personnel. And they now are threatening the candidates or the personnel that if they attend something that we're having, that they would be blackballed. No. And they didn't use the term blackball, but they said, we ain't going to support you. What is that? That's blackballing.
Well, you're saying that it's not officially registered. Well, what about the other parties? You have two other parties. You got the Republican and you have the ICM party.
The only officially registered party in the territory is the ICM party. Anybody can fact check me on that. The only one. The Republicans, they had a case that came in, I think was
registered with the Lieutenant Governor office.
Correct.
Okay.
They had a case came in and the whole thing with the Republican Party, even they brought attorneys from the states to address the matter of their legitimacy here in the Virgin Islands, and it got squashed. The only official, and I'm not saying anything against the Republicans or not saying anything against those registered voters for.
Oh no,
I'm talking about the party.
Itself.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I understand that because, like I said, it's a label you can change.
Correct.
It's two distinction. I'm registered as a Democrat.
Correct.
And the reason why I'm registered as a Democrat is I like to have two bites of the apple. I like to participate
in the primary
election, but I am not a due pay member of the party. So there's a distinction. So most people are registered as Democrats. However, when it comes down to it, people go to the polls and elect the candidate they feel best represent their agenda, regardless of party affiliation, because we have seen it.
So the games that gets played here is so tragic sometimes. For example, they had a court case with the Democratic Party. They went to court and this and that and the other, and then they turn around and they said the case got dismissed. Now, if the case got dismissed, then the case is dismissed. Then none of the things that should have came out of that case should be applied. But they have. And that's the kind of games that's being played. And because they know people are not all very fluent in the law and understanding of the law and this and that, they put on a show and this and that, but they're not real. I mean, anybody could have challenged the fact that they're not properly registered, they're not properly affiliated, and that could have been the basis for the case, but they made sure the case got thrown. The same thing that Trump did. When he came and he said that he was going to pardon and create this funding thing for all of the people on January 6th. And then they pushed the thing down the road, and then next thing you know, the case was canceled because it was an illegitimate case. Those are the games that politicians playing, and I've seen a lot of that stuff that are happening on the mainland, like getting big donors and all that kind of stuff, and super PAC. That's now starting to happen here in our community, and our election are being bought.
Well, that's why I sent a question pertaining to the recent primary election. As you know, the winner of the primary election was Stacey Plaskett, who is our current delegate to Congress. And you had two other gubernatorial teams. As I see, she captured about half.
A little less than half.
Okay, about approximately.
Yeah, I would think. I think she got about 47%.
Right. So you can go and see anybody interested. Go see the statistic. Go to vivote.gov.
Yes.
And so not every person that went to the poll voted for Stacey Plaskett. And I would like to know, how would you convince those who didn't support her, as well as those who did support her, and those who didn't go to the polls at all? Because you have a long list of people. The last time I checked the statistic, the inactive registered voters were almost the same number as the active registered voters. So what can you say to those voters who did not support the winning gubernatorial team or who did, how you could get them to change their minds. What could you say? What message? Because you know campaigning is expensive. This is your chance. This is your moment to convince those who are possibly going to be going to the general election, I presume.
Yeah, well, there's a lot for us to say to those people. First of all, the reason we're in the race, the very reason we got in the race is because we don't want to see more of the same. We are not satisfied
With the
with the
status quo.
results
And
that
the
we're
status
getting
quo.
here in these Virgin Islands.
Mhm.
Therefore, we're saying if you vote for these people who are part of the established government system here in the Virgin Islands, you're voting for more of the same.
Mhm.
So, and I see the Plaskett Potter team as very much part of the status quo. You know, Stacey Plaskett has been the delegate to Congress for over a decade, and Milton Potter is the current president of the legislature. So we've got a team that is very much a part of the existing establishment, and we're saying this situation in the Virgin Islands, the performance of the government of the Virgin Islands is unacceptable, and that is why we're in the race. And so we're telling the people of the Virgin Islands, if you are happy with everything that's happening here, if you think that everything is great in the Virgin Islands, you think the government is doing a fantastic job, then you should support that team. Yes, but if you are not satisfied, if you believe that we need to do better in the Virgin Islands, you need to support the James Bennett team.
So let me add something to that, and that's why we are such a fantastic team. I have so much respect for this gentleman to my right, because, and that's what he needs, and that's a position that he is always going to be with me, always to my right, because it's a leadership position in every stance that we take. But I want to add something to the brilliance that he just brought to the table. 47% is what she got. That means there's 53% of the people who voted that voted against her. 53%. So here's what
Of the Democratic
right. That's because we're talking about the Democratic primary.
The primary, yeah.
So 53% of the people voted against her. Unfortunately, that 53% was split. But here's what we say. That 53%, I'm talking to you right now. Your candidate that you support that candidate because you are against Stacey Plaskett and Potter's team. Our doors are open. We're asking that 52. You cannot, just because your candidate decide now that they're going to go and talk about they have a unity. You did not unify. That was not your decision. Your decision when you went in to vote was against that other party. So bring your vote to us. We have an open door because you know that you did not want to be a part of that team. We're not animals in the pasture that's following the lead person. As you said earlier, it's a label. Bring your team to us because you are not satisfied with that candidate. So because the person you voted for wanted to go, that's just one vote. Let them go and vote. Let them go and rally with Stacey. Let them go talk about unity. But for the people, the voters themselves, I'm asking you guys to give us the opportunity to not be a part of the status quo. Let us help to make every member of the Virgin Islands' lives better. Everyone should eat, not just a specific few. And then when that candidate has received big donor funding, we saw what happened when she got big donor funding before. When she's sitting on the seat in Congress and gets a phone call from a big donor funder, she took the call. Our job is to take the call from you, ladies and gentlemen, you Virgin Islanders, and make that difference for you. Because when that big donor say, I want to have that beach, I want to get this, I want to get that, I want to get this contract, that's who's going to get it. And what's going to happen to our local business people? What's going to happen to our businessmen like Bates, who's a business person in our community? What's going to happen to businessmen like Marco, who's in our community? And many others, but I'm just naming so that a lot of them that are known here in St. Croix, because as I'm walking and I'm seeing Bates dumpsters downstairs. What's going to happen when that big business come in and bring their party in, our business gonna get shut down. Our people gonna get shut down.
Well, I respect the will of the majority.
Yes, and that's
And
53%.
the people have spoken. However, minds could be influenced. I would say part of my mission and passion is to educate, enlighten, and to inspire minds. And I know, however, money talks and BS walks. So, what would you say to the assertion that those candidates with the most donations and paid endorsements usually win the elections? And would you accept from anyone campaign donation, including convicted felons and outside donors who do not reside here in the territory? Because you know it money to it campaigns are expensive. It takes money to send out your message.
Yes.
It's not going to be free. So how would you respond? You agree with that assertion? The big money,
Well,
the big
let me
campaign donation,
respond.
the
Let me respond to that.
endorsements.
Let me respond to that because I feel very strongly about it. First of all, there is a law.
Exactly.
There's a law, and the law says that no one entity should contribute more than a certain amount to any candidacy in one election.
Mhm.
That law was $1,000 maximum up until very recently.
Yep, it was changed.
It was changed to $3,500.
Exactly.
Now, as a candidate, I am willing to accept $3,500 from a donor. I think that is not an enormous sum. I don't feel compromised by it. I feel though, once a person accepts these large donations, $50,000, $100,000, $150,000, even $200,000 to $300,000 from single donors,
Yes.
you are compromised. I'm not asking if you're compromised.
Mhm.
I'm telling you that you're compromised.
Correct.
When you work in industry in the private sector, you are limited, and in the government sector, you are limited as to what kind of gifts
That's right.
you
$25.
can accept. Why? Because you will be compromised if your gifts are too expensive. That is just human reality. So you cannot accept a gift of $150,000 from an individual and then not feel obligated to take that individual's call. You will even feel somewhat obligated to support that individual's agenda. Okay, and that is a problem. And so we don't want that kind of donation. We don't want it. We want to be for the people. We are the team that is funded and is powered by the many, not by the money.
Mhm.
Okay, we are for the people. On election day is the only day when a poor man is equal to a rich man,
Mhm.
or should be. But if we allow the rich man to buy the votes, then it becomes that even on election day, the poor man is not equal. But on election day, when you go into that ballot box and you are voting on a ballot, on a secret ballot, nobody knows who votes for who. You are equal. Everybody is equal on that day, should be equal on that day. One vote for one person. That's what we want to see, and that's what is the basis of this democracy. One vote, one person. We have people outside of the territory right now.
Mm-hmm.
People who don't live here. Why would a person why would a person who doesn't live in the Virgin Islands have such an interest in determining who the governor of the Virgin Islands is? Okay, that person has a vested interest in doing something with the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
He wants an outcome. And so we are very concerned, very concerned. In fact, we are calling for the laws to be enforced. That law is limited right now, $3,500 from any single donor, anybody, and this super PAC or PAC business that they've come up with. Where is that in the VI law, you know. So what I'm saying is that let's stick with the law. There's a reason for that law, and the reason for that law was to avoid this
Lawbreaking.
this
Exactly.
conflict,
Corruption.
this corruption. That's the reason that law exists.
Mhm.
And so for us to ignore that law now is saying that we don't care anymore about corruption, and we accept it. We accept that a large money donor can buy the results here in the Virgin Islands.
Mhm.
This Randolph Bennett and Gustav James, we are not on that team. We are in this in for the people, and we want the people of the Virgin Islands to determine who their governor will be, not some guy sitting up in New York.
Again, I spent a lot of years in Washington, spent a lot of years at the Pentagon. I can get endorsements from general officers that are friends of mine, General Russell Honore from Louisiana. He was my boss 3 times over. He and I speak. We go to conferences together. Big, powerful man. He's on CNN every now and then. This and that and the other. I could ask for an endorsement. We have even had situations where other parties in the United States, not Democratic Party, but a forward movement party, was interested in endorsing us.
Mhm.
We have made a decision. And again, I'll even go to the level of saying, I used to work in the executive office of the President of the United States. I've got photographs with President Obama and Valerie Jarrett, who's his secretary, and who's Valerie Jarrett right now is running the presidential library. People that I know personally, that I could reach out to and ask for their endorsement. But we're not going to go down that road. We are about the Virgin Islands. And I'm not going to be interested in outsiders because they have big name or money to give an endorsement. Because to me, that's an embarrassment to our people. That's an insult to our people. Because these people never been here, they never walk in our stand, they don't know about WAPA, they don't know about their healthcare situation. And when they're going to say they get endorsed, what are they really endorsing?
Exactly. What are they endorsing?
What are they endorsing? So, and then when you have the situation where people talking about, oh, well, you know, we're proud, we've got big money endorsement. Again, people of African descent, look, ladies and gentlemen, we are tired of being bought and sold. I'm talking to the public. The Virgin Islands, we were bought in 1917 for $25 million. How much time are we going to keep being bought and bought over and over? We need people, as Mr. James has just explained. It's about the people. It's not about the money. Thank you for the time.
Well, the issue with the endorsement too, I wonder about, because yes, you have to report your donations,
Yes.
but from my observation, I could be wrong, it appears that sometimes an endorsement is in exchange for some type of contract in the future, because I've seen where endorsements later on, that person who did the endorsement gets
Some
key
sort of payoff.
position,
Yes.
and it happens to after there is a primary, and after
Or
there
maybe
is
if you have to have a
general
runoff
and a
election.
runoff,
Yes, yes.
then you see the endorsements, you will see, which I predict there will be a runoff. Do you think there will be a runoff?
With 53% of the people.
Of the 53% of the Democrats voted against this Democratic selected candidate. So there are a whole lot of voters out there. There are 5 candidates in the race for governor, and so we are anticipating that there will be a runoff, and that is just based on the numbers.
Yes, and based on political history too,
Right.
because I studied the one when Donna Christensen won the primary election, and then
Kenneth Mapp.
she,
That's
yeah,
why she was running
Kenneth
against
Mapp,
Mapp.
yeah,
Okay.
and they had in the general election, it was Kenneth Mapp leading, and also in the runoff,
Right.
because someone mentioned that no, it was Donna Christensen leading, and I'm like, no, let me go and check the record. So anybody interested in the statistics, vivote.gov.
Yes. And this is what we promote when we sit here before you, when I talked about the Democratic Party, and I tell people go and check, the same thing I saw after this election, that they were so disrespectful to Donna Christensen, so disrespectful to her. They talk about, oh, first time woman, winning the race. And what's Donna Christensen? She's a horse. She's a woman. She won the primary for the Democrats before, and she's a female. They were disrespectful to her. And to me, now they're running around with this victory race, victory lap thing. They got big signs out talking about victory. The race ain't even got started yet. Who you won against, and 53%. And ladies and gentlemen, listen to this carefully. That's why it's so important. I had a conversation with a young man the other day. He was saying, well, nothing that we learn in school is important. I said, everything that we learn in school is important. Math is important. If you won 47%, that means there were 53% against you. And when we talk about the majority, you may have won
the plurality.
Exactly.
It's called a plurality.
You won the plurality.
Plurality. You got the most plurality. That's what
that's what brains is about. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what brains stepped in. Thank you.
That is what the primary is. The primary is determined by a plurality.
Yeah.
In fact, when Brian won, he had even a narrower section. He had less than 40% of the Democratic vote.
Correct.
And he won the Democratic primary. So the Democratic primary, all the primaries in the Virgin Islands are based on the plurality, not the majority.
I know it's important to everybody. I try to be fair to all candidates.
Absolutely.
To get their message out. And any candidate that's interested in coming to this platform, they're welcome to do so. I respect the process. And we're talking about voters. You have choices.
Yes. And that's what
I hope people not have undue influence based on appearance, based on what you think this is serious. It's an election. This is serious because it's going to determine your future, what happens. So I'm just suggesting people respect the process, being knowledgeable, and please do not relinquish your right to vote, because we have a lot of inactive registered voters. So, but I've been hearing a lot about corruption, and it seemed like the subject was not discussed too often in the primary election campaign. I see like people are afraid to touch that one with a 10-foot pole. But how would you describe the state of the territory? And do you believe that this corruption, whether real or imaginary, or the perception of it, is negatively affecting the relationship between the federal and the local government?
So I'll address that. Thank you. That's a very thoughtful question that you presented, and I want to address it. The federal government have been monitoring things that are happening here in the Virgin Islands for quite some time. And it's clear and evident by the arrests that have been made, the charges that have been presented, and the convictions that has happened, that the federal government said enough is enough. We ain't playing no more. The federal government just removed funding from the territory because it was being mismanaged and misused. They're saying they're not playing no more. So if we want to continue going down that path and think that it's somehow going to get better with federal government's oversight, we are on a wrong trajectory. I also want to say something. Those candidates in the Democratic primary, the gubernatorial candidates, all of them have been in high-level positions in our government all along. The only new face in town is those in the independent party. Well, not party, but the independent candidates that are running, and the team such as myself and Mr. James. And so, therefore, all of them have been a part. Either they turned a blind eye, they weren't paying attention, they refused to look, but they have, to me, have been complicit in some of the problems that we had with the corruption, because they should have pointed those things out a long time ago. They had the opportunity. For the last 30 years, the Democratic Party have been in a position to have done something.
The corruption that is going on in the territory has become almost like an epidemic.
Yes.
Yeah, you understand. What we're looking at is a reality, not a theory or a hoax
Or a delusion.
Yeah, it's not an illusion, right?
It has happened.
It is happening.
It is.
And there's a lot of money involved, and as a result, like Mr. Bennett just said, the federal government has already taken back or at least put on hold over 1.5, I think it's $1.9 billion.
Wow.
On the VI Housing Finance Authority. So we have a situation where this corruption is having a real impact on the Virgin Islands. I also see an impact in a way that some people might not see, but I see an impact on the overall character of the territory.
Yes.
When the police commissioner gets convicted of crimes, that impacts all the people. The young men out there who are debating whether they should go a life of crime or a life of hard work. Sometimes they will be influenced by things like that. They see the commissioner of the police is corrupt. So then, first of all, they're not going to have any confidence in the police.
Right.
Okay?
Hold on a second. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
But you saw what happened to the police officer that was involved in security for the lieutenant governor. They took his life.
Question marks. Lots of
That's
question marks.
Right. So
That's a question mark.
therefore, as Mr. James, I just wanted to tie that back into that, as Mr. James was explaining to the public. This is not some fantasy thing we're talking about. This is reality that we live in our community, sir.
That is the reality, and that reality needs to be changed. The only way you can change an organization, and let's look at the Virgin Islands as an organization. There's a climate. The organizational climate is such that corruption has been too much a part of it. It's such a part of it now that is dominating the environment.
Yes.
And so what we have to change is that climate, and the only way to change that is from the top. You have to have the correct leadership at the top. You have to have the integrity at the top.
Yes.
You have to have the demand for accountability at the top. You have to have the demand. You have to have the demand for the performance at the top, results, and these things are missing. You look around this territory, and I made the comment recently that the territory is running like a ship without a captain, because there's so much poor performance. Poor performance, not just in the direct government agencies under the direct control of the governor, but there's also poor performance in the semi-autonomous agencies, such as WAPA, such as the Port Authority. We have poor performance throughout the Virgin Islands government, throughout the Virgin Islands infrastructure. So what we need to do is change this entire climate and make sure that the people understand that we want excellence in the Virgin Islands. That means that we want excellence in our Department of Education. We want excellence in our Department of Public Safety. We want excellent healthcare. We want excellence in all of the departments of this territory, and we are going to demand it. And when you demand excellence, sometimes you have to take action. Sometimes you have to take action with employees. Sometimes you have to let employees know that if they are not going to meet the performance standard, you are going to replace them.
That's right.
You know, so we are serious. We are like Mr. Bennett said, we are business owners, but we have been in management positions throughout our careers.
That's right.
And in my case, I have always been in management. That's been just the nature of what I do. And so I had to build things. In order to build something in accordance with the specifications, to build it on schedule, and to build it within the budget, you have to make demands. You have to demand that the people working for you do what they are supposed to do. And you explain to them what they have to do. You make it very clear how they should do this. And then you also make it clear that if they fail, you will have no choice. You will have no choice if you're a manager, if you're a true manager, and the people who are supposed to get certain things done are not getting them done. You are not in a position where you actually have a choice. I have terminated people in my career, and I've had people that I have terminated come back to me and apologize. More than once, because I've never, to my knowledge, terminated someone unfairly, but I've given them the adequate warning opportunities, and I have showed them what needed to be done. Okay. When these people have gone away and realized that I had no choice, I'd say, listen, my job is to get this done, and I will do what it takes to get it done. And if that means removing you and replacing you, that is what I will do.
You know, some people think because it's government, you know, they could get away with certain things. Sometimes you go in the offices and people on their phone, they're just ignoring you. But it impacts everybody.
Yes.
And
We firmly believe.
I don't want to focus so much on negativity.
No.
So tell us where your message can be it's written, your platform, and how you're gonna go about, because not everybody is in the into digital technology on Facebook. And I always say 2 names that should be on the ballot always: accountability and transparency. But people are so frustrated, and they lost trust in government. So other than a website, how are you going to carry out your messages to the
The grassroots.
the grassroots, and those who have pretty much given up, they surrender, they're like, I'm done, I don't want to vote. How are you going to carry that message to them?
We have been doing a number of
Outreach.
by having door to door. Now they're knocking on doors. A number of members in the community have seen my face knocking on doors, you know, telling and sharing our message. We have been doing outreach by having like little town hall meetings with members of the community. So we are taking a very grassroots personal approach to our campaign and style. And I just want to go back to something that we were just talking about. And I want to clarify something. When you said that you don't want to focus on negativity, I just want the listening audience to know that I know sometimes things are communicated and you kind of want to pivot a little bit. But I think nothing that have been said this morning or any of your discussion, any of your questions have been negative, right? It has all been positive. It's all about us being able to share our mission and our focus with the community. Also, we feel that to correct a lot of the problems that we're having in the community, and that's what I was going to get to, is that we need to provide training, a lot of training with the people that are working for the government and people that's in our community. And we feel also that as leadership in the community, we're not only leaders of the government employees, we're leaders for all people in the community. So anything that we can do to help the private citizen, anyone here, make them more knowledgeable, put continuous messages out, Don't wait for when the school getting ready to open, then to say we need to go fix it. We need to start have a plan, you know, from all along. That's what I did as a director for the State Department. We planned. I had 365 facilities in 180 countries that I had to manage every year, and the federal government is set up. You only have a 1-year budget, so you have to think about a plan long term to fix a lot of problems that we have in the community. And we want to be able to engage with our private citizens like yourself to continuously carry the message out in the community. You may have a training program that we fund for the government, from the government of the Virgin Islands, to members of the community, because you as a radio personality is a voice, an influencer. We need to do all type of training, whether it's talking about healthcare for with moms and babies and children. We need to provide training because knowledge is key. And the problem that we have is what they're hoping for right now. When those people buy up the territory, then another set of people are going to come in because our people not going to have the knowledge of what's going on. And before you know it, we've lost where we at.
Well, one way you get your message out, of course, is on a website. So I want you to tell us your website, and if you have a headquarters, what events coming up are you planning? And let me mention that anyone that has a question or comments, your input is welcome on the WSTX Facebook page, or if you are a member of my Facebook group, Virgin Islands Affairs Forum, don't hesitate. You can give your input, because I am seeing some of you are watching now on the Virgin Islands Affairs Forum platform. I welcome all candidates to join the platform. I asked the question, do you believe all Americans should be treated equally? Why not? So I know I said a lot, but again, give us some more information about how to contact you and to interact with you.
We are out in the community for one thing, and what we have done and what we like to do. When we are in the community, we are not just talking to you. We want you to talk to us.
Absolutely.
We want to hear from the community. We have never believed that we have all the answers within us. Right. We know that the answers exist.
Interesting. Okay, let me take a card. Welcome. Good morning. You have a question?
I have a question for the candidate.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. What's your question?
Mr. James.
Yes.
I know that you work in electrical company and stuff like that to install the radio, the now for the world. Before you will do for WAPA, how they have $600 million to spend on WAPA, what will you do if you get in there to help us with the number one problem in the body, electricity?
Definitely. Water. Yes. Let's start with electricity. I'm glad you asked that question, because that's something that I've given a lot of thought to, and a lot of my life has been engaged with such things. And today I'm going to be brief because we don't have I can't go into the depths, but I'm going to. Yeah, I'm going to be brief. I'm going to stay on the top. I'm going to stay on the. You're right. I'm going to stay on the top and just tell you what I will do. WAPA right now, the cheapest form of electricity in the world today, and this is something that you don't hear from many people, but the cheapest form of electricity in the world today is a solar panel. Okay, that is the cheapest way to generate electricity. You put a solar panel in the sun, and electricity.
I have that.
Yes, so electricity flows. What has been missing? I mean, solar panels have been around for decades, for many years. But what has been missing in the past was the adequate way to store the energy. Now, the technology has advanced to the point where batteries are not only able, but also priced within a range that makes it practical
Yes.
to use batteries.
Yes.
So what we're going to do with WAPA, we're going to put solar panels out, and people talk about the land area required. We have more than enough land. I calculated when solar panels were less efficient than they are today, I calculated that we needed 600 acres to power the entire St. Croix power load. And 600 acres is not a difficult amount of land to find on St. Croix.
Correct.
But right now it's less than 600. There are already several solar fields out there, and the batteries now. I heard WAPA say that a battery costs $1 million a megawatt hour, but that's not the case anymore. That is actually less than. I mean, it's more like 10% of that number. It's more like $100,000 a megawatt hour. So we're looking at a situation where the technology is there. And think about this: if you have solar panels, you know they don't require much maintenance at all.
No.
You don't have to do anything with these things. The rain washes them off. Okay. You just hook them up, and electricity continues to flow as long as the sun is shining. And when it's dark, your battery is supposed to be there. And once you have that system, and that's the system I use in my personal property.
Absolutely.
And that is the system that I want to have for the entire Virgin Islands. That is the future. And don't let anyone tell you that the solar panel is not cheaper. It is. I've done the numbers. It is cheaper. It is the cheapest form of electricity in the world today. So that's the plan. Solar panels and batteries.
And I gotta tell you that I have a generator for my solar system. That if the sun will come up for the 3 or 4 days, just start on my generator.
Exactly. Your system is exactly what the Virgin Islands need.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, and you see that.
I got my Wi-Fi right. I used to pay $20 and $40. The charge them make $240 now, $214. They don't come to ring on meter. The estimate tell them just cut off Wi-Fi. Done.
You may as well, but let me say something about that. WAPA has a whole lot of meters around this territory that are not functioning. I mean, I know I've got meters right in my neighborhood that are blank. The power is flowing. WAPA is providing power, but you go and look at the meter, and there's nothing. There's blank, absolutely blank. It looks so you're in a situation where you have no idea of how much WAPA power you have used, and WAPA apparently has no idea how much WAPA power you have used. So I told the guy, I said, I buy fish on the side of the road sometimes, and every fisherman has a scale.
Yeah, every fisherman.
Every fisherman has a scale.
And it's calibrated.
Yet I can actually buy a fish without a scale because I can see the fish. Right? But I can't see the electricity, and WAPA wants you to buy electricity without a meter. It's crazy.
That's interesting.
James,
Yes.
I want to cut you off, right? I would like you to go on my show and explain in detail how you would fix WAPA.
I would love to do that.
I want you to do that because everybody have a problem with WAPA. Everybody in the Virgin Islands.
I will do that, sir. Well, a lot of them don't understand because they don't have the background that I have. I just happen to be a person that works in this field, and so yes, I will go on that show and I will do that as you request.
Yeah,
So can I?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that call. Yes, thank you.
So,
What I was wondering.
can
Go
I
ahead.
add
Sorry.
something to that? When I listened to that caller, it made me feel very emotional. And I'll tell you why. We have been saying this ever since we started our campaign trail. And we've been telling people that this is possible. And exactly what that caller came in and described is what we have been saying. We want that to be on every home in our community. That way then WAPA does not become a problem for the community. Just the same way, if every home have a cistern and the water situation becomes dire, we can turn to our system for water, right? So you have a backup system on your home. The reason why WAPA sometimes cannot properly shut down or whatever, because it's only one facility that's powering in our community. On the mainland, you have many different power stations. So when one go down or have to go down for maintenance or repair, they transition the power to someplace else, and there is no break in the power to your home. That's what we want to have, like what that caller just called and described. And it's so powerful because here it is, someone that's saying exactly what we've been saying, and people tell us it's not possible. People tell us it was not possible.
Yet we have so many examples.
We have so many
of it working perfectly well.
Well,
Like
let
the
me
caller.
announce,
Yeah.
because I have scheduled WAPA officials to come on my show September 1st.
Mhm.
So, and they want to address some of the issues taking place, particularly in Frederickston. So I'm putting that out there. Anybody interested? Yes, stay tuned. Today's show is Tuesdays, 8 to 9-ish. 8-ish to 9-ish.
But see, WAPA are going to come and talk about their problem, right? What we as managers are talking about
I
is
know,
how
but
we
the
solve the
topic,
problem
the
across
topic
the
is
community.
it's limited time. I
Right.
have a lot of questions concerning the WAPA situation.
Mhm.
I know the governor had promised that St. Croix was going to be solarized,
Yes,
most in its entirety by a certain
time.
year.
Yes.
I don't recall that year he said, but
Well,
obviously
within his administration, within
it
his time.
was, yeah.
Yes, within his time. So
It
we know
hasn't
that it
happened.
hasn't happened. Yeah.
And what I see too is to me, the situation becomes worse when you have major consumers come off the grid. And I know in some places with a public utility company, it's illegal to come off the grid, isn't it?
Well, it's illegal for other people to sell you power. I know that they have an exclusivity.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't know of any place where you cannot leave. I don't know of any place where you can refuse
Yes.
to purchase. But
Penalized. You're
right.
penalized for
But
being
you-
off the grid.
but definitely
Mhm.
you have to the utility is given an exclusivity in
Mhm.
terms of being able to sell the
Wealthy
power.
people do that all the time.
But yes, of course.
Well, it's something to explore, but we know it's a public utility company, and they have been this question of whether it
It's an
should
exodus.
become
But let me just
privatized.
right. Let me
That's the
touch on
word.
that.
When
Let
you
me
think
touch.
about that.
Let me touch on that for a minute. First of all, I don't like the idea that people say, "Oh, we can't handle it." Anytime I hear that, I
Right.
get upset
Correct.
because I know of the brilliance of our young people.
Absolutely.
Okay, and what our young people require is guidance, direction, and a demand.
Mhm.
What I demand of young people is I demand performance from them
Mhm.
Mhm.
because I know they can do it.
Right.
So you can't tell me that they can't run WAPA. All I can tell you is that they're not running WAPA properly, and that we will make sure that WAPA is run properly. That means we're going to put the right people in charge. We're going to demand performance, and these young people of the Virgin Islands can do it, and they will do it. Now, in terms of what is going to happen in the Virgin Islands, what's going to happen with WAPA, what's going to happen with our infrastructure? Accountability.
Mhm.
Accountability. If you are running WAPA and you come to me and say that, for example, I've asked a simple thing when I was actually briefly on the board of WAPA. Outage reports.
Mhm.
If my power goes off for a significant length of time, let's say for more than 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is very significant in my world. The world that I am accustomed to exist in, power cannot go off.
Yep.
Okay, you cannot have power outages in the refinery, for example.
Mhm.
If you have a power outage in the refinery, that is a major event. You talking about a refinery shutting down, you're talking about taking over 2 weeks to bring that facility back to its normal operation. Okay, so you cannot have power outages in many places. And the way that you prevent these things from happening is that you design it properly. So WAPA has failed in so many ways over the years, not just in the design in order to ensure reliability and the fact that the power does not go off, but also in the cost. WAPA has wasted our money. WAPA was getting 18% efficiency. 18%, 82% of the money that we pay to WAPA goes up the stack, goes up in smoke because and the technology that would have allowed them to get over 45% efficiency, because we can't get 100% efficiency burning fossil fuels. it's very, very, very difficult. In fact, I would say with the current technology, it's impossible to get 100%. But you can get 45%, you can get 60% in some cases of the energy to go into your rotating equipment or whatever you're running. And so WAPA has been getting 17 to 18% because they have simply run the company so loosely and without any regard for using the proper technology and for doing the proper engineering. Okay, I work for an oil company that produced over 10 million barrels of oil per day, and I could not waste oil the way WAPA wastes oil. Okay, working for a company that produced that much oil and at such a low price, and I could not waste it the way WAPA wastes our oil.
Okay, the time went so fast, so at this time we're gonna wrap up. I want you to give your final message to your listeners, and I want to thank everyone who has tuned in and remind them that you could always put your questions, your input to the WSCX Facebook page or Virgin Islands Affairs Forum. And if you haven't joined already, you're welcome to join the Facebook group, Virgin Islands Affairs Forum, to virtually immerse yourself into the political, educational, historical, cultural, and social affairs of the Virgin Islands. So what's your final message?
My final message is this, ladies and gentlemen of the Virgin Islands. We had a primary election, and it's evident that 53% of the voters for the Democrat voted against the candidate that won. 53%. If your candidate decided to go and partner, please remember that your choice was to get your candidate because you were against that other candidate. So I'm asking all those 53% to really start looking and considering us as your choice, your next choice. The November 3rd election is coming up, and we're humbly asking for your vote on November 3rd so that we can really be the candidates who transform our community. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, in addition to those 53% of the Democrats, we want also all of those independent voters. We want all of those Republican voters. We want all of the people out there who are looking for a solution, the people who want to have better governance in the Virgin Islands, who want better results in the Virgin Islands. Absolutely. We're asking you to come to this team, come to the James Bennett team to support us, because our intention is to get the results that this Virgin Islands needs. Our website is GustavJamesForGovernor.org. And you can go there and see our platform. You can go there and make donations. Please work with us. Let's get this done. The Virgin Islands needs it. We do not need more of the same. Thank you.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. And of course, you're welcome to come back again. And thanks to all those who have been listening.